Some perspective, Dewa Mavhinga of the Human Rights Watch joins me live via phone from Johannesburg, South Africa. Good evening, Mr. Mavhinga.
Good evening, Vincent. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and now, every time we see protests in Zimbabwe, we see violence. Are there legal, authorized protests that ever take place in Zimbabwe?
Well, that is the problem, that the protests today in Zimbabwe were cleared by the High Court. So these were legal protests. These were peaceful protests initially. But the police, in their attempt to crush the protests, actually instigated and incited violence. So this is why it will be difficult to get peaceful protests, because the police themselves are acting outside the law. There is a collapse in the rule of law in Zimbabwe because the police refused to take the High Court order that gave the political parties, the authority to have their constitutional right to march and call for reform.
Now, what was the main reason for today's protests?
Today's protest brought together, 18 opposition political parties who are calling for national electoral reform ahead of elections. You would know that one of the major problems in Zimbabwe is of an uneven electoral field and of electoral laws that favor Mugabe and ZANU-PF, and therefore these opposition political parties are calling for reforms to ensure that there is an environment that is conducive for the holding of credible, free and fair elections, and national elections are due in 2018.
Now, is there any indication whatsoever that Robert Mugabe's government will cave in to this demand?
So far, the response from government has been arrogance and heavy-handed police deployment. So it's an indicator that they are not prepared to cave in. But what we are witnessing is an increasing number of protests and increasing resilience on the part of citizens. So it is only a matter of time, I believe, before the government caves in to pressure from citizens. Because for the first time, we had sustained demonstrations of weeks and months, and people seem to be saying in unanimity, enough is enough. And therefore, the only way forward for Mugabe and the ZANU-PF party is to engage and get into dialogue with citizens.
Okay. Mr. Mavhinga, thank you very much for your perspective.